everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome to a Monday live stream here at the Jayda and Stitches show. As most of you, well, actually, a lot of you probably know this, but some of you might not. Here in Canada, Thanksgiving is this coming weekend. So we have our Thanksgiving celebration this weekend. Technically, October the 14th is our Thanksgiving Monday. It's a holiday. So all this week, we thought we would celebrate in Canadian style, looking forward to Thanksgiving. And we've got Thanksgiving stuff on the docket for the whole week. So this Friday, we'll have a typical Friday video, but Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday this week, we're going to live stream at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern, so same time every day, and we are going to work on a Thanksgiving wreath. We're going to make the whole thing, and today we are just going to make ourselves a turkey. So we're going to make a little turkey. This is going to be sort of the main focal point, I guess, of our cute little crochet wreath. And later on today, we'll be posting a community post note about more specific things you might want for tomorrow's wreath building. It's going to be quasi-multimedia, but more than likely you'll have what you need lying around the house, and we'll explain that in a little bit. But today, we are going to crochet ourselves a turkey, and it's that silly looking little thing that Mr. InStitches has put up on the screen there. This is our turkey applique pattern. We have a tutorial for this. So if down the road you want a quick refresher of just this specific turkey, you can find that. We'll have a link to that tutorial in the description box down below. If it's not already there, it will definitely be there by the end of today. But that's what we're going to make today. This little applique is good for a whole bunch of different fun little projects, obviously, like all appliques are. But this little guy is going to sit on our wreath. So more on the wreath later. Let's talk about the turkey. For our little turkey, this is a real scrap project. I have way more yarn sitting here on the craft table than I actually need. Oh my goodness, Joanne, thank you for picking up a couple of patterns. Joanne zoomed over to the Etsy shop just before I say anything more. Yes, we have a sneaky sale on today, and it's all things turkey. It's our turkey applique, our Fair Isle style turkey graph and pattern, and also our extra large fancy granny square that has a big turkey in the center of it. So those three turkeys are on sale today. Sneaky sale at the shop, and gigantic thank you to Joanne. Back to the turkey applique. I have a lot more yarn than necessary here, but I have all the right colors. So you want around, I'm going to say 10 or 15 yards max of a dark brown. This is for the main body of your turkey, and then you just need small amounts, maybe like 5 yards or less of a beige. You need a little bit of red, a little yellow, a little blue, and a little bit of white. So you really don't need a lot of yarn. Nico, the gifting ninja, is in the chat. Hello, Nico. Nico has gifted a membership. Thank you so much. And congratulations to Regina, who's just won it. Welcome to the family, Regina. Thank you, Nico, the gifting ninja. So that's the yarn. I'm using a size 4 medium weight, and this is all acrylic, but you can use really any fiber you want for this project. But if you're going to use this turkey applique on something like a blanket or a hat or a scarf or something that's going to get washed, I recommend matching your fiber of the applique to the fiber of the project. So if it's an acrylic blanket, acrylic fiber for the applique. Oh my gosh, there's so much going on. Marie, thank you for picking up a pattern. And hello, Masha. Masha's in the chat. Masha with a super chat. Thank you so much, Masha. She says, thank you for brightening up a dreary Monday. You know what? Mondays used to suck. I love crafting on a Monday with all of you. So I'm really glad that we are bringing some cheer and some brightness. So that is the yarn. We are going to want the usual pair of scissors, a yarn needle. I recommend a stitch marker. I'm using a 5.5 millimeter hook. It's also known as an I or a 9, but you could technically use a smaller hook if you wanted, like a 5 millimeter, or even a larger hook if you wanted. And if you're varying the weight of the yarn, so if you're in the UK and the best you've got in your stash is a lot of DK weight yarn, then go down the hook size to either 5 millimeter, even 4.5 millimeter. If you're using the DK weight yarn, you'll have a slightly smaller turkey, but that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. The turkey has a couple of eyes. I've got a couple of little beads. These are like 4 millimeter or 5 millimeter little round beads. I've got 2 of them in black and of course a needle and thread to stitch them on. If you want, you could use buttons in this case. Our turkey's bouncing around on the screen here. You could also use safety eyes if you had some small safety eyes or googly eyes. It depends on the kind of look you want to give your turkey. So the eyes I'm going to leave up to you, but I'll be using a couple of buttons. All right, let's get started. I'm going to move a couple of my pumpkins out of the way here. I'm going to start with the brown yarn. And I'll get these guys out of the way. My goodness, Joyce, thank you for picking up a couple of patterns. Thank you, and a big happy Monday to everybody. All right, here we go. We're going to use our dark brown to start. We're going to start with the body of our turkey. And this shouldn't take us too long. This is, like I say, it's an applique. It's a nice sort of short little project, but it's really cute, and it's a great way to start off this week's Thanksgiving wreath project. Okay, we are going to begin with a cinch circle. So, cross your yarn to make a loop, like a little fish. Hook goes through the circle, grab the yarn, and pick it up. Chain 1. That secures your circle, and now we're going to work over top of that little short tail and into the circle. We're going to use the double crochet stitch. So we're going to chain 2 more. So we've got a chain of 3, 1, 2, 3. That counts as a double crochet for row 1. Into this row, we're going to work, actually, we're not going to count that as a double crochet. Just chain 3. That'll get you up to the right height. You can put 12 double crochets into this row. 12 double crochets, ignore the chain 3, or you can use the chain 3 as a double crochet and only double crochet 11. Either way, we're going to have 12 stitches in this row. So double crochets into that circle. I'm going to be skipping over top of the chain 3 so that I get a much neater circle, a lot more solid. You're not going to see the chain 3. So I recommend skipping the chain 3. Put 12 double crochets into that cinch circle. And I'm doing a lot of chatting, so now I think I've got 12. I'm going to count. So that's my chain 3. I'm not going to count that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's 12 double crochet, all worked into that chain, or I should say that cinch circle. I'm going to take the short tail, pull it nice and tight. So that cinches it up. Wow, it's nice and tight. There's no spaces there. I'm skipping over top of the chain 3. I'm going to find the top of the first double crochet that I made, and I'm going to join with a slip stitch. And I'm going to work over top of that short tail, just so I don't have to worry about weaving it in later. And there we go. You've got 12 stitches all the way around. If you're skipping over the chain 3 will be pressed to the back as you join to the top of the first double crochet, and that gives you a nice solid center. For row 2, we are going to get this little tail out of the way. Chain 3 to begin. Again, the chain 3 is not going to count, but we are going to double crochet in the same place as the chain 3. So if you pull up on that chain 3, you see that spot, stick your hook in there, double crochet. Okay, this is where you might find it useful to have your little stitch marker. I'm going to put a stitch marker on the false stitch. That's the little chain that sits right at the foot of the chain 3. So you see that little loop down there? I'm going to put that there. That just tells me that I will be working 2 double crochet into every stitch until I get up to my stitch marker. So 2 double crochet in each stitch all the way around. I hope everybody had a lovely weekend. It's iffy with the weather this time of year. You never know if you're going to get like a beautiful day or a crappy day. So 2 double crochet in each stitch all the way around. We're just making a big circle. We had 12 double crochets at the end of row 1, and we're angling towards 24 double crochets at the end of row 2, so we are doubling our stitch count. And I've got one little stitch left before I get to where my stitch marker's hanging out. So I'm just going to take my stitch marker out. So the last 2 double crochet, I work into that stitch, and that brings me up to the false stitch. So this is where I had my little stitch marker hanging out, and you can see it looks like a stitch. It sits right at the bottom of the chain 3, and because we are going to skip over the chain 3, I am going to double crochet into that stitch right at the foot of the chain 3, skip over top of the chain 3, and then join with a slip stitch. Barbara, thank you so much for picking up a pattern. Join with a slip stitch to the top of the first real double crochet we made. That presses the chain 3 to the back. So now we've got 24 stitches all the way around in that lovely chocolate brown. That's row 2. We have one more row of increase, one more row of this dark brown, and then that's it for the main body of our turkey. We're going to chain 3 to begin. Nico is Nico's messaging now. We have a super chat from our super ninja. Nico says super duper chat. Super duper chat. I like that. It is a super duper chat. It's probably the best chat on the internet. Chain 3 to begin. We will be skipping it, but before we leave, we want to double crochet into the same place that we chained 3 out of. So if you pull up, you see that little space there, double crochet into it. And if you want, put your stitch marker on that little false stitch that sits right at the foot of the chain 3. Double crochet once into the next stitch. And now the repeater all the way around is 2 double crochet, 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet, 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet, 1 double crochet, etc. all the way around. There's Vima. Vima's in the chat. Vima with a membership milestone. Vima's been a member for 47 months. Thank you so much, Vima. Vima says, "Hi Jayda, how are you keeping?" Today I am keeping very well, thank you. I hope you're doing just as marvelous, Vima. Two, 1, 2, 1 all the way around. Double crochet stitches. We're going from a count of 24 at the end of row 2 up to a count of 36 at the end of row 3. How is the weather in India, Vima? Where I am right now, it's nice. We've got some sunlight. We had rain over the weekend. It's just slowly cooling down. The leaves are definitely turning. Nico with a membership milestone too. Goodness me. Thank you, Nico. Nico's been a member for 20 months. My goodness, has it only been 20 months? Wow. Talk about making a giant impact. Thank you, Nico. Nico just zipping in with that. My gosh. And then ding ding for Ronald and Kathy Jones. Ronald and Kathy in the house. Hey, cousins. Thank you so much. My goodness, with a super generous super chat. Says, good morning to our cousins up north. Mondays are better when we connect with you. Aw, thank you. Been busy with Sophia recently. Aw, and I'm so glad to see you both today. Love you both and counting on having a wonderful week. Having started it with you, Kathy and Ron. Thank you so much, Kathy and Ron. And a big hello to sweet little Sophia. I'm glad she's been keeping you busy. And a big thank you to Tammy. Tammy has picked up a pattern in our Etsy shop. Thank you so much, Tammy. Just finishing row 3 on our turkey. Boy, I love all the rhyming going on today. 2, 1, 2, 1 all the way around. I have one more repeater of that. 2 double crochet into the second last stitch. 1 double crochet into the last stitch. That brings me up to the false stitch, which is where I had the stitch marker hanging out. I'm going to double crochet once into that. That's the stitch at the foot of the chain 3. I'm skipping the chain 3. I'm joining with a slip stitch to the top of the real double crochet, and now I have a perfectly round, no gap circle of dark brown. That's it. Now, if you were going to stitch this onto something, you would want to leave yourself a nice long tail for sewing. But I don't think I'm stitching it the normal way to this wreath that we're designing. So I'm just going to fasten off and weave in the tails. You don't need very much tail if you're just fastening off. If you are going to sew this to another project, leave yourself a nice long tail. Otherwise, fasten off and weave that tail in across the back. That's it for the biggest chunk of our little applique. So that is the body of our turkey lurkey. I'm going to weave it in one way and then sort of pop over a loop and weave it back the way I came. That'll keep it locked in place, and that is it for that. All right. Body done. Let's jump right into the tail feathers. That sounds funny. So we're going to grab our beige. I've got some, you can use beige, a lighter brown, orange, red, depending on turkey tail feathers, wherever you are, or however you imagine a turkey tail feather. I'm going to go with sort of a plainer, natural looking turkey tail feather. So the base of my turkey tail is going to be beige or a lighter brown, and then the top of those turkey tail feathers is going to be white. But if you wanted to make them sort of wildly colored, you're more than welcome to, but I'm going with beige and white. So I'm taking my beige or my light brown here. I hear a ding. I just had a sip of water. Laurel! Hello, Laurel. Laurel's been a member for 19 months. Thank you, Laurel. Laurel says, Jayda and Mister, you make any day brighter. Thank you for being fun friends with all of us. You're awesome. Thank you. You guys are awesome. You guys make this chat such a fun place to be. Do you know, it is so true. On Mondays, not only do I look forward to hanging out with everybody and doing some crafting with all of my friends here, but when I look in the chat, I see all this fun conversation. I see people talking about their days, their weekends, the weather, sharing recipes, talking about the projects they've been in and out of. I love it. It is such a supportive and wonderful creative community. It makes me happy just seeing you guys chit chat. So thank you. Thank you all for being here. Tail feathers, everybody. Let's take our light beige or brown yarn. We're going to put a slip knot on our hook. We're going to join with a slip stitch in any stitch. So think about maybe where you want the top of your, your whole circle should be pretty even, pretty perfectly even. So don't worry too much about it. Just any stitch will do, any stitch along. You're going to join with a slip stitch in the top of any one of those stitches. Chain one right where you are and single crochet into the same stitch that you joined your yarn in. We start with a single crochet. Hello, Dawn. Dawn has been a member for 70 months. Thank you, Dawn. Dawn says, happy fall, y'all. Love this time of year with all the beautiful colors, and we have lots of wild turkeys. Your turkey is so cute. Well, thank you, Dawn. Wild turkeys are hilarious. Don't get too close to them because they're wild and they're turkeys. But they're so pretty, and I love if you see a whole bunch of turkeys. This is my favorite thing. All the ladies are like busy eating, you know, they're nibbling, they're pecking away at the ground looking for grubs. And like the guys strutting around, this is typical in the spring, you see this too. You know, tail feathers are in full display, strut, strut, strut. Girls couldn't give a crap. They're so busy eating. Makes me laugh every time I see that. Anywho. A lurky turkey? Oh, we got lurky turkeys? I love that. Lurky turkey turkey. All right, so we join our yarn with a slip stitch, chain one, and single crochet in the same stitch that we joined in. Now we are going to skip a stitch. So skip one stitch. You can work over top of your short tail if you want to. Skip one stitch and work 5 double crochet into this next stitch. So skip a stitch, into the next stitch, work 5 double crochets. So single crochet, skip a stitch, 5 double crochet. And like I said, we have an original tutorial for this. It is linked in the description box down below, and if it isn't right now, it certainly will be a little later from now. So if you want a quick refresher on how to do this, we do have a standing tutorial on that. After your 5 double crochet into the same stitch, skip one stitch and single crochet into the next stitch. You're basically making a bit of a scallop here. Single crochet. Skip one stitch, this one. 5 double crochet into the next stitch. So that's 5 double crochet into the same stitch. Skip 1 stitch, single crochet into the next stitch. We're going to do this 5 times basically so that you have 5 like bubbly little feathers. Single crochet, skip a stitch, 5 double crochet. Skip a stitch, single crochet. Skip a stitch, 5 double crochet. Skip a stitch, single crochet. And one more, skip a stitch, 5 double crochet. So this will be our last tail feather. And to finish it off, skip a stitch and single crochet. There we go. Fasten off. Those are our 5 tail feathers started. I'm going to quickly weave in that tail too. And I'm going to do that through some of the loops back here. I'm going to be careful not to pull too tightly because I don't want to pull my tail feathers out of alignment. Nobody wants their tail feathers pulled out of alignment. I'm going to weave my tail in back and forth a couple times, and that will keep it from wanting to come undone, which is especially useful since this shiny yarn is a little on the silky side, and it can be a little slippery. There we go. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 little turkey feathers. We are not flipping our work, so we're always looking at the right side of our turkey. And now we're going to add a little bit of a finishing effect to those turkey feathers. So I'm going to grab my white yarn. I was running short on white yet again. So this little bit of white I have has little flecks of blue in it. You'll recognize it if you did the spring garden wall hanging along with this. I was using some of this up in the sky, but I actually don't think this will be too weird. So I'm going to use some of this up for this little project. The blue is pretty quiet. Take your white yarn, put a slip stitch or a slip knot on your hook. We're going to join our yarn with a slip stitch in the, or a single crochet, I guess, in the first single crochet of the tail feather. So that where we joined with a slip stitch, chain 1 single crochet. You can join with a slip stitch, chain 1 single crochet, or join with a single crochet. It's up to you. I think I'll try joining with a single crochet this time. It's all the same, doesn't really matter. So single crochet. Now we're going to work a little repeater all the way across into each stitch. So into the next stitch, we're going to work 2 single crochet. And then 1 single crochet into the next stitch. 2 single crochet into the next stitch. 1 single crochet into the next stitch. And we're going to repeat that all along. 2, 1, 2, 1. You're not skipping any stitches. You're using the single crochets. You're using the tops of the double crochets. 2, 1, 2, 1, all the way around. And that is going to give us not only a nice sort of rounded bunch of feathers, but it's going to sort of fluff it up a little bit. Bethany! Well, hello, Miss Bethany. Miss B has been a member for 67 months. Thank you, Bethany. Goodness me, with a membership milestone, says, good morning. This week I'm going to try to crochet, but we have to get ready for Lil C's first birthday on Sunday. Oh my gosh. I made a fall star blanket with the turkey. My mother-in-law uses it for decor during the holidays. Oh my gosh, how cute. First of all, congratulations to Little C. And secondly, how neat is that? A fall star blanket with a turkey on it. I love that. What a great idea. Two, 1, 2, 1, little repeater all the way along. turkey cracks me up. I mean, turkeys in general crack me up. I think they're funny. They're like chickens. Chickens make me laugh too. Not that I, don't take my poultry seriously, but I just think they're so funny. They look so self-important. Maybe this is what we look like if you pulled out to space, maybe this is what we look like, ridiculous and self-important. But I feel like turkeys and chickens look so self-important. They look so serious. Like they've got so much going on. Got a little bit of a tail sticking through there. Get that out of the way. There we go. So 2, 1, 2, 1 all the way across. You're ending with a single crochet in the top of the very last stitch that you made, which was a single crochet. And then you can fasten off your white yarn. You can weave in your tails. If you were using this as a big applique to sew down to something, you might want to leave a long tail of your white just so you can stitch down the white part. If you're adding it as an applique, you're sewing it down to something. But for the purposes of this project, I don't need to do that. So I'm just going to fasten off, small tail, weave the tail in. And I'm going to weave it in underneath those single crochets that I just did. So try to keep the color of your yarn tail that you're weaving in tucked under the stitches of the same color. That just helps it hide a little bit better. Mr. InStitches thinks that he may have fixed our strange camera issues from previous weeks. It looks like one of our new cables is faulty. So that's a bit of a bummer. Yeah, so far we're good. So unless of course we're not, and I'm just sitting here yammering away to the universe. Excuse me. All right, all woven in. So back to looking at the front of our turkey. These are our little turkey tail feathers. So body of turkey, turkey tail feathers. I can't help it. I keep laughing. All right, let's make some feet. We're going to join the feet onto the body. So grab some yellow. You do not need very much. I have some sort of yellow scraps here. We're going to make some feet. We're going to take our yarn. We're going to put a slip knot on our hook. We're going to flip our turkey around so that the tail, we're still looking at the right side of the bird, but the tail feathers are now on the bottom. We are going to count 5 stitches away from the last stitch we used over here. So this is where we last used our stitches for the end of the tail feathers. We're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this stitch, number 5, is where we're going to join our yarn, our yellow yarn, with a slip stitch. So we're joining with a slip stitch. Don't worry about your tails. And we're going to make a foot. We're going to chain 3 and slip stitch into the second and third chains. So into the second chain, we're going to slip stitch. Into the last chain or the third chain, we're going to slip stitch. And then we're going to slip stitch back into the same stitches joining. And that is a toe. We're going to repeat that twice more to make 3 toes in total. 3 toes total. Chain 3, skip the first chain, slip stitch into the second chain from the hook, slip stitch into the last chain, and slip stitch back into the same place that your yarn is anchored in. That's 3 little toes. How do you not laugh at this? It's just so silly. Chain 3, skip the first chain from the hook, slip stitch into the second chain, slip stitch into the third chain, and slip stitch back into the same place. So all 3 toes are anchored in the same place. You can fasten off. If you were sewing this down to another project, you don't really need to sew around the toes. It's such a small little thing that those little feet can sort of flap back and forth. That's all right. So you can leave the toes in the wind, so to speak. I like to take my two ends, knot them together, not too tightly, excuse me. And then I would weave them in a little bit underneath the foot. If you're using a really thick yarn in the body, you might be able to get away with weaving them in back here, because I don't think you're going to see them through the body of your turkey. Since I'll be attaching my turkey, and I don't know how much of the turkey will be showing, I'm just going to weave those tails in underneath the backs of my feet a little bit, but I'm not too worried about them coming undone. So just a little bit, and then I'm going to snip what's left. Careful not to snip the actual stitches. There we go, a little scrap for the scrap bin. Still looking at the right side of our turkey. Feathers are at the bottom. Foot number 1 is on the right. If you're working left, you could be looking at it on the left. It doesn't really matter. What we're doing is we're equally placing 2 feet at the bottom of our bird. You're going to count 4 stitches away from where you anchored your foot number 1. So count 1, 2, 3, 4. And you're going to put it 4 stitches away, or you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and place it sort of equally away, further away from the edge of the other feather. Basically what you want to do is have them evenly put on the bottom of your body. If you feel like you need an extra stitch in between, that's perfectly fine. These are just sort of guidelines. So if you want to look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and put it here. I think I might put him down a little bit further. 1, 2, 3, 4. However you feel it's equidistant. You want your feet sitting equally at the bottom. So I think that's good. Maybe one more. There we go. Your feet or your toes kind of spread out a little bit, so you don't want them too close together. And it's exactly the same thing for foot number 2 as it was for foot number 1. Join with a slip stitch, chain 3, slip stitch into the second and third chains away from the hook, and anchor that toe back in the same place that you joined your yarn with a slip stitch, and then you repeat that, chain 3, skip the chain immediately next to the hook, slip stitch into number 2 and number 3, slip stitch into the same place that your yarn is anchored in. That's 2 toes, and then one more for toe number 3. Slip stitch to join and fasten off. Trying not to cut too much of my yarn here. There we go. Bring my tails to the back. I might just knot them together. Why not? I'm going to pull these tails through the back of these little toes here.
Do you know how many toes a turkey actually has?
Well, I'm going to guess like any raptor, it's got 3 in the front and a big one out the back. Is that right?
I don't know. I'm just, someone asked in the chat.
That's my best guess. I don't keep turkeys or chickens, but I bet you somebody here does. They are raptors though, so I accidentally pulled that out. Let me put that in. There we go. Excuse me. All right. Let's have a little sip of water here. We have 3 toes on either little foot. We have 5 feathers across the back of our bird, And now we want to make his head. So we're going to make the main part of his head, we're going to make a beak, and we're going to make his little waddle. So for his head, we're going to use some blue yarn. You could use light blue, dark blue, turquoise, whatever kind of blue you've got. A nice rich turquoise would probably be good. I feel like a lot of turkey heads are a very strong blue color. This is what I've got in the stash though, so this is what we're going with. We are going to make a cinch circle. And just like row 1 of the turkey, we're going to chain 2 more after we create our cinch circle and the securing chain. And we're going to work 12 double crochet into that circle over top of that short tail. It is exactly the same as row 1.
If you leave it like that, it's a turkey butt.
It's a turkey butt!
It does look like a turkey like leaning over.
It's so true. So if you were going to make like a little stuffed kind of sort of 3D version of this, this would be the back, and then you'd make one exactly like this and add the head to the front. And that's hilarious. Nico has a total turkey butt. Anybody else? I had a cousin, an older cousin, who used to call me a turkey bum whenever I would do something silly as a little child, and that always made me laugh really hard. All right, that's 12 double crochets. I'm ignoring the chain 3. I'm going to cinch that circle shut nice and tight, skip the chain 3, join with a slip stitch to the top of the first double crochet we made, and that's his head. So this is side 2 if you're making a 2-sided bird. And again, you don't have to sew around the feet. So if you were making this to be the back and you made another one to be the front, you would just sew around the brown bottom and then maybe around the tops of the white bits. And you only need to leave a sewing thread on the brown circle and on the white edge, and only on one side. You don't have to leave long tails on the other side, because you only need to sew with one tail. So no, but I would easily upsize this to be somewhat you could the easy way would make this mostly blue with then, like, you know, maybe 3 rows of brighter colors up here, but I think I could come up with a better peacock pattern. Given a few days, I think I could do that. Peacocks are kind of neat. They have like a funny, they have a narrower little body. Okay, so the head is 12 double crochets worked into a cinch circle, skip the chain 3, join with a slip stitch to the first real double crochet, and make sure it's all cinched up nice and tight. Leave yourself tail about 25 centimeters or 10 inches, enough to sew it down, because you are sewing this to your bird. And you can weave in the short tail. So that little tail, I'm going to weave that in over here. I'm sure if a peacock heard me referencing it, well, you know, it's close to a turkey, the peacock would be extremely offended. So if you have peacocks, don't tell them I said that. All right, just weaving that little tail in, around and around and around on the back of this circle. Thanks, Bethany. I'll check that out in a little minute. So there's the head. The head will sit roughly like just a bit below the back end of the tail feathers, but not right in the middle. We want it to be kind of on the upper side of the circle. But we're not done yet, and we're not sewing that down yet. We've got to make his beak and his waddle. So we're going to grab our yellow yarn again. The beak is very, very small and simple. Take your yellow yarn, make a slip knot on your hook. Chain 3, just like the toe. We're going to work a slip stitch into the second chain from the hook. So you skip the first chain, slip stitch into the second chain, and then single crochet into the last chain. That's it. It's a very small triangular shape. Leave enough tail for sewing. I don't know, 15 centimeters, 6 inches, something like that. That's your little beak. You're going to weave that short tail in across the back, trim any excess. Nico, the gifting ninja, has gifted yet another membership. Thank you so much, Nico. Nico. Joanna has won it. Congratulations, Joanna. Welcome back to the family. Thank you, Nico. Okay, one beak. Very, very small. Just put that aside. And now the wattle. You need a little bit of red. Not much red yarn at all. Take your red yarn, put a slip knot on your hook, chain 4. We are skipping the first chain away from the hook, that's this one here, and into the second chain you're going to work 3 single crochet. So 3 single crochet into the second chain from the hook. Slip stitch into each of the next 2 chains. And you're going to leave a little tail for sewing, like 15 centimeters, 6 inches, maybe 7 inches. Not too much. You can weave that short tail in on the back, and if you've got a little bit of a gap, like here, you can see that gap where you did your 3 single crochet, you can close it in when you weave in your short tail. So weave your short tail in on the backs of those stitches, bring it down to the backs of those single crochets, and don't pinch the top part, but you're going to weave it underneath those single crochets, going in one direction, and then keep going. So once you go through them once in one direction, you're going to go through them again. Don't pull that straight part out of alignment. There we go. Cinch it as you go. Ding! Hello, Crocus! Fellow Canadian, Crocus Connections, with a super sticker. Thank you so much, Crocus. Happy Thanksgiving to you. All right. There's our wattle. Oh gosh, I laugh so much at this. Okay, so let's do a little bit of stitching. There's not a whole lot here. First, we're going to put the beak on so we can get the wattle out of the way. You're going to pick up your little head, and you're going to attach that beak basically so the widest flat end of your beak, so not the point, the place opposite your point is right across the middle. And you can just sew right through the head. You can do one of 2 things. You can sew back and forth just across this part so his little beak sort of like talks, or you can sew it down completely. I'm going to sew it down completely. I'm treating it kind of like an applique. And like I said, you can just sew in and out, right through the head. The head is going to be sewn to the body. It's not going to show. So any stitching on the back side of this head isn't going to show. And pause every so often just to make sure that it's relatively straight. You want your beak to look more or less straight. And one more. Actually, maybe that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. All right. Once it's all stitched down, and I mean, I think I put 4 or 5 stitches in there, nothing big. You can just knot that tail on the back of the head. Again, it's not going to show because we're stitching the whole head down. So I usually just run that yarn underneath a loop on the back of the head and then make a little knot. And I'll do that a couple times just so it doesn't want to undo on me. So I'm pulling that yarn underneath a loop and then pulling the rest of the tail back through the loop I just made. There we go. And that feels nice and tight. I can run that underneath a couple of loops and trim any excess. Again, it's not going to show and it's not going to undo, so I'm not too worried about it. Careful not to snip any stitches. And there we go. That's the beak on. Okay, we want to sew the eyes onto the head next. So before you sew your head onto your body, let's sew the eyes on. Same thing, because the back of the head isn't going to show. If your stitching's a little messy, it doesn't matter. So you want your beads, your buttons, your safety eyes, whatever you're going to use. If you're gluing googly eyes on, then you can just skip this entirely and just put the eyes on at the very end. But I'm going to sew my eyes on. I would normally say use the same color of yarn or thread to sew the eyes on, but I've got a needle already sort of ready to go here with some white thread in it, so I'm just going to do that. You want to put your eyes on either side of the beak. So the top of the beak on either side, but you know, you can put them close together for a real derpy looking bird or on either side. I like to put them kind of on either corner of the beak. So I'm going to knot, sort of anchor my thread on the back of the head. I've got a knot, I've got it double threaded, and I'm going to run my needle between the threads so that it anchors because it's already knotted. So there we go. And then I'm just going to sew one eye down. I'll sew it down a couple times. And then I will, if I still have enough thread, I'll sew the other one down at the same time. If I have to rethread, that's fine. There we go. That's on nicely. I think I have enough thread left to do the other side. So I'm going to bring the needle out the other side and sew this side down. Let's see here. Bethany's back. Miss B with a super chat. Thank you, Bethany. How many parts do we have for this wreath? She's wondering. I can tell you. We've got 4 days of live streams, so that's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Tomorrow we're going to make the actual wreath, and we've got 2 more days of things left to make for the wreath, but we're going to talk about stuff you can add to it. So you can, it's a wreath, you can put whatever you want on it. A quick heads up, I'm going to be adding my little cranberries or the crab apples that we made a couple of weeks, I think it was the last live stream. Where are my crab apples? Oh, there they are. Hang on, let me get them. If you missed those, they look like this. So I want to put some 3-dimensional things on my wreath. I love these little crab apples. So I've got 3 little crab apples, and I'm going to have this turkey and some crab apples, and then we've got a something we're going to make on Wednesday and something we're going to make on Thursday to add. All of it obviously is completely optional. You can decorate your wreath however you like, but we are making the wreath tomorrow, and I'm going to have a special community post out later today with all of the materials that you might want to source for making the wreath. And the biggest thing you're going to need outside of scrap yarn and whatever yarn color you might want for your wreath, you can make it any color you want. You're going to want some larger hooks, but the base that we're going to build our wreath out of you're going to want some kind of wire or cording. So you can use crafting wire, pipe cleaners, an old cord. If you've got a cord from something like your old iPhone, the cord stopped working and you don't know what to do with it, and you're comfortable with a pair of like snips taking the ends off, you can use the old cord from an extension cord or something like that. So some kind of wire that we're going to use as the base. You're going to want a little bit of tape. So we're going to tape ends together and cover anything sharp so nothing sticks out. And that is going to be us building the base of our wreath, and then we are going to create crochet around it. So I'll put out a little post later today on some more specifics and some suggestions if you don't just have crafting wire. I've got crafting wire and pipe cleaners. I'm thinking I might use a little bit of both. I'm not sure yet. And we're going to build that tomorrow, and then on Wednesday and Thursday we're going to make some other things that we're going to just kind of start adding to it. So that's the plan, Sam. Kind of excited about that. Very excited, actually, since I have to get something up on the door before the weekend. All right, I've finished sewing down the eyes on my turkey. I'm going to knot this yarn on the back. So this is what I do. If I run out of thread, if I've got it double, if I've got it double threaded through the needle, I'll snip the yarn or snip the thread, put my needle back so I don't end up sitting on it. And you can see I've cut it like this. I'll pull one thread underneath the loop of a stitch. So I'm going to grab one little thread, not both, just one, in my little yarn needle, pull it underneath the loop. So now I've got a thread on either side of a loop of yarn, and now I'm just going to knot those ends together a couple times over top of that loop, and that's not coming undone ever. So knot twice. This is what I do if I run out of, like, I've got just not enough thread left that I can do a regular knot with it's still threaded up in the needle. And I'll do it 3 times. There we go. 3 little knots. I'm not even going to worry about trimming that thread. There's the head of my turkey. Oh my gosh. All right. We're going to sew down the head. The last thing we're going to do is sew down the wattle. So let's sew the head down on this turkey. I can't help giggling. They just look so funny. So you want to position the head in the middle. So I like to make sure my feet are kind of evenly balanced at the bottom. And I've got my feathers. I want my head pretty much directly underneath that top middle feather, and maybe the chin about the middle of what was row 1, the middle of the cinch circle. So about that. So that way you see a little bit of that body at the top. Thread up the tail you left. Now, if you have to pin it into place to keep it from moving, you can do that too. Because I don't know if the back is going to show the way I have it positioned on my wreath, I'm going to use the top facing loops. So I look for a loop directly underneath where I want to sew, grab the loop of the body, and then I use it to sew. And I make sure that it hasn't moved on me. And then I find another loop. Nice, neat way to sew.
We need to do a scarecrow.
A scarecrow.
Scarecrow applique.
Oh my gosh. I love scarecrows. Gee, we could make that really big too. Like a nice big one. I love scarecrows. I have about a million scarecrow projects that I'd like to make, and I still haven't gotten around to making any of them.
We have a very good question from Catherine. Do turkeys have chins?
That is a very good question.
I think they're kind of chinless.
Do turkeys have chins? Well, their wattle's attached to something. Is it not a chin? Underneath the beak, would that not be the chin? I don't know. How many times have I offended turkeys today, I'm wondering. And if they're well fed, does that mean they have a double chin? And I'm just working my way around. I'm grabbing a loop as close to or just underneath the stitch along the side of the head where I want it to sew down. Not sewing too tightly, but the beauty of this loop method is that it keeps all stitching from showing through to the back. So your back looks nice and neat and tidy. All right, one more stitch. Monsieur Turkey. All right, I've got his little head down. All I'm going to do is make a little tiny knot at the bottom on his chin. One little knot, nice and tight, and then I'm going to just weave that tail in underneath some of the stitches. I'm weaving them through the stitches. I'm not going to worry too much about it wanting to come undone, so I'm just going to trim whatever is left. Careful again not to snip any of my stitches. Actually, that should probably go over here with my stitch. And I'll just tuck that in there. All right. So, I'm always sort of twisting and fiddling with my bits. There we go. Okay, and now the waddle. So the waddle is the last thing that goes on.
Don't forget the chin.
The waddle is going to cover his chin. So if he's
First, waddle second.
if there's a chin and it's double, the waddle will cover it. So that the chin is going to sit just under, or the waddle is going to sit on the chin, just sort of like underneath, maybe like, I don't know, like just kind of so that it's connected to the bottom of the head, but doesn't quite touch the beak. And same thing, you can pin it in place if you have to, but I'm going to hold it. And the first couple stitches I'm going to do are going to be right across here so that I make sure that it doesn't have a gap. What?
Happy little turkeys like Bob Ross.
Happy little turkeys?
They do look happy on the screen.
Well, yes, he's happy. This guy's going to decorate my front door, so he's pleased. Same thing. I'm trying to just grab loops of stitches on the body that I want to attach, like use as a sewing anchor. Actually, you know what? I don't think I like that there. Christine, thank you for picking up the pattern. I'm going to back up and add another stitch. So I see this. I have this little line here. I don't like that. It's because I didn't anchor that stitch close enough to where it was last used. So I'm going to back up. And I'm going to put that closer. So I'm going to find a loop that's much, much closer. There we go. Can't see that at all now. That's what I'm going for. Nice and neat. And now I can move down here. All right. Do turkeys have chins? Could somebody please Google that and find out if turkeys have chins?
I think someone did. Who was it? I think it was Bethany.
Bethany?
Said male turkeys waddle hangs from their chins.
Okay. All right. So they do have a chin. Male turkeys have chins. Okay, once you've sewn all the way around, you can make a little knot at the side, just like you did with the head. Try to make that as small and as tight as possible. There we go. And then, same thing, I like to try and weave it in through some of the stitches, back down through the middle of the waddle, out the bottom. Do not pull too tightly. And then I'll just trim whatever's there. Do not grab the stitches. And there we go. One little turkey. I love it. I love this little thing. So that is part 1 of our little wreath. We're going to make a Thanksgiving wreath. This guy looks like he's looking around a corner. And I'm going to be including my crab apples from last Monday. We're going to make the actual wreath tomorrow. So this is going to be fun. This is going to be a big, fun, kind of messy construction. Wreaths are wild looking. They don't have to be super neat and tidy. We're going to have some fun with our various sized hooks. So we'll get your big hooks out for tomorrow. Grab some scrap yarn of any color, and then grab some color yarn that you maybe want your wreath. So if you want like your wreath to look like dried grapevine, maybe you want some browns, a couple of different brown tones is fine. If you want like a really wild looking wreath with this, it looks like it kind of fell onto the forest floor, like it's a bunch of leaves, you can go with crazy leaf colors. Anything you want. We are going to be constructing a base of a wreath in order to put other things on. Nico still flashing through the chat. Nico's gifted another membership. Thank you so much, Nico. And congratulations to Maeve. Maeve won it. Welcome to the family, Maeve. And Don's asking, do you have any advice for adding to an already completed blanket? Like adding appliques? You can do that. Adding another row of border to make it bigger? You can do that. And if you are adding to the bottom or the top, try to mimic the pattern, whether it's a stitch pattern or a color pattern. Like you're adding, you know, if you're going to continue stripes, make sure you're going in you're continuing the same color pattern, but you'd be working in reverse if you're working off the bottom. So keep that in mind. I think that's it. So if you guys, Caroline says, it looks like he's getting ready to make a charge. He's going to charge these little crab apples is what he's up to. So yeah, we've got 4 days of fun live streaming. We're going to build this little wreath together. Tomorrow we're going to construct the actual wreath, and then we'll spend Wednesday and Thursday making stuff to decorate it with. This is not difficult, not complicated. We are just making a goofy little Thanksgiving wreath. It's our Thanksgiving here in Canada this weekend. And this Friday, we are going to have another tutorial, the usual Friday afternoon tutorial. But until then, we're going to have some Thanksgiving fun all week long, and I'm so looking forward to it. So look forward to a post this afternoon on the community tab that has more specifications about the kind of materials you want to kind of put together for tomorrow's wreath, or whenever you want to make this. Maybe you're just hanging out with us all week long and you're going to, you know, work on it over the weekend. That's fine too. That information will be coming this afternoon. And if you've got turkey pictures you want me to include in today's post or tomorrow's post, please feel free to include them at the Etsy shop. Links in the description box, and you just click on message or contact seller, and you can click on the little photo icon or the little camera icon and add a photo that way. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel, 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern. Same turkey time, same turkey channel, yes. Oh my gosh. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the support. Thank you for being just the best, most wonderful, sweet, loving, supportive, and creative community on the internet. I truly mean that. This is just such a great group. There is no negativity here, man. It is positivity all the way. You guys are so wonderful. And I hope that wonderfulness continues the rest of your day. And we'll see you in less than 24 hours. Mister, anything you want to add? No. All right. Go.